No, actually, that's not true. People had been living on the American continents for over 100,000 years before Columbus supposedly discovered them. Historians believe that the first settlers in the Americas came from Asia during the last ice age when a land bridge connected Alaska and Siberia. These people gradually spread out across the Americas. For thousands of years, there were people living in Europe and in the Americas, but they had no idea the other existed. At that time, the known world consisted of Europe, Africa, and Asia, sometimes referred to together as Afro-Eurasia. This was seen as the entire world, and this can be seen in early maps that only showed these continents. So, if Columbus didn't discover America, was he the first European to visit? The answer is still no. Icelandic Vikings actually reached North America nearly 500 years before Columbus. They settled along the coast of Canada, in what is now Newfoundland, around the year 1000. This makes it clear that Columbus was not the first European to step foot in the Americas. It's also interesting that two of the things Columbus is most famous for, discovering America and suggesting that the Earth is round, are both incorrect. The idea that the Earth is round was proposed as early as the 6th century BC by Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Plato and Aristotle also wrote about it, and by Columbus's time, educated people already knew the Earth wasn't flat. In fact, the circumference of the Earth had been accurately calculated around 240 BC. Columbus believed the Earth was smaller than it really is. When he set out on his journey, he wasn't trying to discover new lands. Instead, he was looking for a faster trade route to India, because the overland routes had become more difficult due to the rise of the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East. Columbus thought he could sail west from Spain and reach India quickly, bypassing the Ottoman-controlled land routes. People didn't doubt Columbus because they thought the Earth was flat. They doubted him because they knew the Earth's true size and understood that India was far too distant to be reached by sailing west. If the Americas hadn't existed, Columbus and his crew would have run out of supplies long before they reached Asia and would have perished at sea. 5 weeks into his voyage, Columbus arrived in what is now the Bahamas. However, instead of realizing he had found new lands, he believed he had arrived in Japan. He also explored Cuba, thinking it was part of China. Because he thought he was near India, he called the Caribbean islands the West Indies. The Bahamas was already home to indigenous people, whom Columbus mistakenly called Indians. This is why Native Americans are sometimes called Indians, even though they are not from India. The name stuck because Columbus used it, even though it was incorrect. According to the Bahamas Dictionary of Biology, or BDOF, for more than 2,000 years, the word began to spell out with R's, Indian. While Columbus did not discover the Americas, nor was he the first European there, he did bring the Americas to the attention of Europe. This led to the European colonization of the Americas, even though Columbus thought he had reached East Asia. He died in 1506 without ever realizing the true nature of the lands he had encountered. Around the same time, between 1497 and 1504, an explorer named Amerigo Vespucci made several voyages to the West Indies in South America. Vespucci was the first to correctly identify that the land Columbus encountered was not part of Asia, but a completely new continent. He referred to this land as the New World, while the continents of Europe, Africa, and Asia were known as the Old World. The first use of the name America came in 1507, when a German map maker named Martin Waldseemüller published a world map. He named the new continent America, after Amerigo Vespucci, because Vespucci was the first to realize that the lands Columbus encountered were not Asia, but a new separate continent. On Waldseemüller's map, the name America was applied to South America, and it was written across the continent. Interestingly, South Americans sometimes take offense when people use the word America to refer only to the United States. That's because the term America was originally used to refer to just South America, not the entire continent. Amerigo Vespucci, the man after whom the continent was named, died in 1512, never knowing that a whole continent would be named after him. As time went on, more of the Americas were explored, and maps began to change. By 1527, maps showed more of South America, and the east coast of North America was beginning to take shape. But at this time, the word America had not yet been used to describe the entire landmass. The first map to refer to both North and South America as America was produced later, in the early 16th century. In 1569, the world maps were becoming more accurate. However, this map also did not use the name America but labeled the Americas as India Nova, or the New Indies. In the map's Latin inscription, the cartographer described three distinct parts of the world: the Old World, Europe, Africa, and Asia; the New Indies, the Americas; and the southern parts, which he meant to refer to Antarctica. Maps continued to evolve as more information about the Americas became known. It wasn't until the late 16th and early 17th centuries that the idea of the Americas being separate continents from Asia, and even from one another, became widely accepted. In conclusion, Christopher Columbus is remembered for his voyages to the Americas, but he did not discover the continent. The Americas were already inhabited by indigenous peoples, and the first Europeans to reach the New World were likely the Vikings. What Columbus did do, however, was bring the Americas to Europe's attention, which led to the eventual colonization of the Americas. Amerigo Vespucci, not Columbus, was the first to recognize that the Americas were separate continents. The name America was given to the continent in honor of Vespucci, although he died without ever knowing that his name would be used to describe an entire continent. The history of the Americas' discovery and naming is a story full of misunderstandings, mistakes, and ironies, but it ultimately helped reshape the world as we know it today. 1 year after the map was created, there was still confusion about what to call the Americas. The cartographer, unsure of the right term, decided to label the new lands as America, or New Indies, unsure what the general consensus was on naming the New World. In 1595, the name America still hadn't become widely accepted. This world map was the first to show the continents in different colors. Both America and New Indies were colored yellow, which suggested they were part of the same region. By 1606, a much more important map emerged in American history. This was the first map to clearly separate North America and South America into two distinct continents. On this map, you can see the words America Septentialis, which is Latin for North America, and America Meridionalis, which means South America. This was the moment when the Americas began to be recognized as two separate continents. By 1794, a map was created that accurately showed the world as we know it today. North and South America were now clearly recognized as separate continents, with each one shown in different colors. This map was probably the first to represent the Americas in a way that matched our modern understanding. Over time, the name America evolved. It originally referred to just South America, then both continents together, and later North and South America became distinct. However, not everyone agrees with this division. Many countries around the world still view America as one single continent. For example, in Spanish, the country we call the United States is referred to as Los Estados Unidos, which means the United States. This name doesn't include the word America, which some might argue is more accurate. In English, we often refer to the United States simply as America, which can cause confusion or even offense to people from other parts of the Americas, especially in South America. South Americans may feel that calling the U.S. America overlooks their own identity as part of the American continent. I understand why people from South America might be upset by the use of the term America for the United States, but I don't believe it's a case of ignorance or disrespect. People aren't using the name America to suggest that the U.S. is the only country that matters. It's simply a linguistic convention. The name America has become tied to the United States, even though the country's full name is the United States of America, and there are 35 countries across the Americas. The United States is the only one with America in its official name. It's also important to note that, in South America, referring to the U.S. as America could be seen as disrespectful to Spanish-speaking countries like Mexico. Mexico's official name is Los Estados Unidos Mexicanos, meaning the United Mexican States. While it's not a big deal in English because of grammatical differences, it could cause confusion in Spanish, especially since the term United States has been used by several countries in history. For example, there were once nations like the United States of Belgium, the United States of Brazil, the United States of Colombia, and the United States of Indonesia. The U.S. is not unique in using the term United States. The real reason America is often used to refer to the U.S. is due to the fact that citizens of the United States are called Americans. The word American simply makes the most sense in English. There's no easy alternative. We don't say United Staters or anything like that. American is the most logical word in English to describe people from the United States. However, in Spanish there's no such problem, because they have the word estadounidense, which refers to someone from the U.S. The literal translation of estadounidense is United Statesian, which sounds awkward and doesn't really work in either language. But the real confusion comes with the Spanish word americano, which means American. In Spanish, americano can refer to anyone from the American continents, not just the U.S. This is where misunderstandings can occur. The best way to handle this situation is for people to understand that words in different languages have different meanings. When learning a foreign language, it's important to grasp the context in which words are used. For example, in English, the word America refers to the country, while in Spanish, America refers to the continents, which includes North, Central, and South America. So when speaking in English, it's better for people from South America to avoid calling themselves Americans. Likewise, U.S. citizens should avoid calling their country America when speaking in Spanish, since America means the entire continent, not just one country. In summary, the confusion arises from language differences and historical developments. In English, America is understood to refer to the country, while Americas refers to the continents. In Spanish, America refers to the continents and Los Estados Unidos is used for the U.S. To avoid offense and confusion, it's best to respect the language and its cultural context. U.S. citizens should say estadounidense when speaking in Spanish, and South Americans should be mindful when they use American in English, as the term means different things depending on the language and the perspective. The term America can mean different things in different languages. In English, it refers to the country and its people, who are called Americans. In Spanish, America refers to the continents, and people from the U.S. are referred to as estadounidense. Understanding these differences is key to avoiding confusion and respecting the language you're speaking. The biggest takeaway is to understand that language shapes our perceptions of geography and identity. So whether you're from the United States, South America, or anywhere else in the Americas, it's crucial to use language thoughtfully and respect the distinctions that exist between nations and continents. Thanks for watching.